republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's just state that 6:02 for the record.
We called the meeting to order at 6:02 due to some technical difficulties. I would take approval of the regular agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Sean, seconded by Rick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The next item up is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions on that? If not, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
And Bruce made a second. Maggie made the motion. Any other questions? I have one question. Do we have those bylaws someplace? Those firemen's bylaws? Are they like on the website or something?
I will email those out to you. I could have sworn they were attached on there.
Okay.
So I will email
Can you,
those out.
can you also put it in the joint drive?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, there
yeah.
too.
Okay, that's all I had. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, the next item up on the agenda is the public is invited to be heard on matters not on the agenda. Speakers limited to 5 minutes. I don't see anybody in the audience. I did get an email from an individual right before the meeting and I responded back to him, but I told him right close to 6 is when this would be. He didn't respond back to me, but he had another item going, so I don't know. Next item up is the city engineers projects update. Is Chris there? Okay, we gotta turn this thing on.
Hoping you can hear me okay.
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can. Success this time. Okay.
Yeah, that was nice.
So with you today, I have two items, one being the City of Engineers project updates. I don't really have too much to go into detail necessarily on those unless there are questions for me. If there are, please let me know. Otherwise, I have my next item on here for the 2024 project.
Okay, any questions on the project?
So,
Otherwise, go ahead on the
okay.
next item.
Next item I have for you is on the 2024 street utility project. With the project nearing completion, the next step in our process would be to move on to the assessment hearing. So what I have provided for you is the draft of the assessment roll and the assessment rates used for the project. I will note in here that the assessment rates used on the project are the same as were used on the 2022, 2023 projects. So we're holding that rate from the last 2 years as well, due to the low bids that were received on the project. With that said, the project construction cost is amounting about $4.117 million, with the overall project cost at $4,831,000. And this would be for construction costs plus engineering costs plus the testing costs. So if council elects to proceed with the assessment hearing, that would be held on, is proposed to be held on 6 p.m. on Monday, October 21st, which has generally been when we've held those meetings, the second council meeting in October. At that time, residents would have a time to review their assessments, which will be sent to them, mailed to them ahead of that time. If there are any objections to the assessments, they'd be heard at that time as well. And if otherwise, we just kind of proceed with the normal role of finalizing assessments, and then they'd go to LaSure County and Scott County. So I do have a resolution with you here today. First, I'll see if there's any questions that you'd like me to answer first.
Are there any questions for Chris? Otherwise, I would take a motion to order preparation of proposed assessment calling for a hearing.
Second.
I said I would take a motion.
So moved.
I thought you made the motion,
No.
my fault.
Don't, you want a second? Sean?
Sure.
Okay. So there's been a motion by Sean, seconded by Rick. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
And I think we also need to make a motion to approve the resolution.
That's what I just,
Okay,
that's what I just did. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't read the number.
that's okay.
So it would be, this would be the motion, resolution 2409-1601. Okay, the next item on the agenda is, I guess, Chris, are you done?
I'm done for tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, good night, thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the property tax levy.
Yes, so, we've had a couple budget discussions now. And as we, discussed at our last meeting, we kind of ended the meeting currently sitting at 11.24% over 2024. As we have discussed, generally with our preliminary levy, once it's set, you cannot go any higher than that. And so we as a council discussed, well, even though we weren't quite up there, we would put a small bump in there just to make sure that something unforeseen doesn't come up, but we have no intentions at this time of going up to the 13%. And so I did approve a resolution there, 24091602, setting the 01, setting the 2024 proposed property tax levy at $5,451,715, and scheduling the public hearing to set the final levy on December 2nd of 2024. And I can stand for any questions you may have at this point.
So I just wanted to clarify the resolution number, because the resolution number that you just read is the same as the resolution for the street project.
Yep,
So it probably should be 02.
it is
Yes.
02 on the resolution.
Okay. Thank you for pointing that out.
What, my question to staff would be, I get the 13% and giving you a little bit of a bump, but I want to know what the commitment from the staff is to even work hard to get below that 11.24%.
Well, I mean, it's our commitment we have every year to try to make sure that we aren't wastefully spending while still providing services. I mean, we're certainly gonna have the more budget discussions going forward, Sean, and, we can certainly break down if the council is not happy with where we're at and see where we can get, but, I mean, the budget's currently set up trying to keep as many current services intact as we can, and, we'll have further discussions, I guess, going into December to do what we can, to ensure that we're not having wasteful spending.
No, and I know you guys work hard at that, but there obviously has to be, I'm not comfortable with the 11.24%. I cut out in the paper today, St. Louis County was, their property tax levy was gonna go up 7.23. I also read another article that I meant to cut out and I didn't, but Hennepin County's is at 5.5, and even Minneapolis and St. Paul, which is notoriously, almost every year, the highest one, it seems like, in the state, are coming in at like 7 and 8%. And we're looking at 13.
Yep, and so some of this too, Sean, you have to remember that all of those places likely had an increase last year as well, where we had 0 increase. And so, we may see a slight, on higher one this year, and that's kind of what we talked about in our first meeting, just due to, having a year with a 0% increase on our levy.
Okay. Well, again, like I said, I like giving us a little leeway and whatnot, and I look forward to the upcoming other budget sessions that we're going to, or meetings that we're gonna have, to try to work that down. I just wanna make sure that we're just not gonna fall real simply into 11.24%. I guess.
No, and I don't think that'll happen because like the dental insurance, you're making a recommendation to go with Health Partners with a 12%, less 12% reduction in
Right.
rates, so, right there, but we didn't know that the last meeting.
And the potential for the medical insurance also to
Yeah.
coming in under budget.
So, but we budgeted,
We budgeted,
nothing changed.
yeah, we
Like,
budgeted based off of no changes, not because the council hadn't made that decision yet.
Yep, so,
Right.
yeah,
But again, as most years, I just wanna make sure that city staff realizes that just because we're gonna go to 13 and you guys are proposing 11, doesn't mean that we wanna still look at cuts to get that down.
Correct, yeah, and I just wanna make sure that you guys understand that we've built this out with our current service level, and that too, obviously, at some point, was you are lowering a tax levy, you are cutting services as well.
Right, understood, but sometimes we have to make tough choices, so, and I think we're all aware of that, so, okay, that's all I wanted to just
Okay,
gauge your,
good discussion. So, I'll offer resolution 24-09-16-02, for adoption,
Second.
seconded by Bruce. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. The 2025 health and dental insurance.
Yes, so as we discussed at the last meeting, we didn't quite have all of the information. We had hoped for dental insurance yet. We were able to collect that information. So I guess kind of going through my general recommendations, we did discuss at the last meeting, we didn't necessarily need a decision right then. Absolute drop dead decisions would be mid-October, though hopefully we could get those done sooner. That way, we could start to get open enrollment meetings scheduled and whatnot, especially if there's a change. That way staff could have any questions answered and have plenty of time to do so. So, diving into this, my hope is tonight that we are able to come with some sort of decision to move the process along a little bit. And so I guess starting out, just to kind of recap, coming out of that meeting, my recommendation was to move to a plan, and the document should be in there again if you want to look at exactly what these plans are made up of, to a plan known as the Smart Plan SHSA 3A, 3 Aware Plan, which I had presented as option 3. This plan is similar to our current plan with a few small differences, including raising the deductible out-of-pocket max from $2,250 and $4,500 up to $3,300 and $6,600. So it does raise about $1,000 and $2,000 respectively across the plans. It also makes the deductibles embedded compared to the aggregate plan we have now, which basically means that a single person in a family plan is treated as a single person as to how the insurance is paid out for out-of-pocket max reasons. I guess making this move to this plan without any other changes would potentially save the general fund a little over $51,000 and would save all funds across the city a little over $85,000, assuming all employees that had insurance last year elect the exact same coverage this year. I guess looking at benchmarks from surrounding communities shows that setting the out-of-pockets maxes around that level would bring the city's plans pretty close to average with the information that our provider is able to get for us. And I guess when comparing the general premium amounts that the city pays, city employees do tend to pay a little bit more than their counterparts in surrounding communities. So, but at this time, I am not making a recommendation on a change to the percentage of the contribution. I guess rolling that into then talking HSAs, we did also discuss HSA contributions. With this potential savings, there is an opportunity for the city to examine the contributions for city employees as an opportunity to potentially offset the increased deductibles should the city switch plans. And I guess it was presented at that meeting that increasing the HSA contributions from 500 and 1,000 to 1,000, 2,000 respectively would increase spending to the general fund of about $29,000 and all funds about 50. I also presented that going up to 1,250 and 2,500 would increase spending by about 4,400 or 44,000 and 75,000 respectively. If you coupled this with the change of switching insurance plans, it would still lower the end number and result in a savings of health insurance over last year. And I guess when comparing benchmarks with surrounding cities, it does show that our city employees are quite a bit more below average in terms of surrounding communities. And there is a potential here to, like I said, offset the city employees for having a potential higher out-of-pocket max while still saving the city money and making the city competitive with surrounding communities. So I guess to that end, I would recommend increasing the HSA contribution this year to $1,250 and $2,500 respectively. Finally, the last one that we were talking about, dental insurance. I'd shared that we had had proposals from Delta Dental, MetLife, Guardian, and Health Partners. The big question we didn't have was what coverage looked like within the city, and we do have that information now. Delta Dental, which is who our current carrier is, did quote us at an 8% increase for 2025, keeping our plan the same, and they are available at all 5 dental businesses that I'm aware of. I apologize if I missed one, but I believe there are 5, and doing the math here in town, and Delta Dental would be accepted all of them. Health Partners did quote us at a 12% decrease on the plan rates, as well as holding that rate for 2026 as well. And all 5 dental businesses are accepted in network here in town, though they would be at a level 2 on their proposal. Looking at their proposal, level 2 is still, I would say, have a competitive advantage of the Delta Dental plan in terms of lower yearly deductibles, as well as higher out-of-pocket maximum annually. MetLife, according to their own directory, is only accepted at 3 of the 5 dental establishments in town, as is Guardian. So even though Guardian and MetLife do offer a lower rate, I would argue that, especially with Health Partners coming competitive to those two, that we could probably remove those 2 out of the consideration. And I guess then looking at it, I would recommend going forward with Health Partners at a 12.6% decrease over 2024, and locking that rate in for 2 years, which would save annually a little over $12,000. Ultimately, the effect on this budget, if these 3 moves that I've recommended are made, would result in a savings of almost $20,000 for next year, which would lower the 2025 levy by 0.42%. So
Did you say 20,000?
almost 20. It's $19,970 of savings putting the 3 together.
Could you review that? It just seemed like the number seemed smaller than I was trying to add up in my mind as you went through this.
Yep, so the health insurance, I have the sheet in front of me now.
There was a savings of 50 or 60 or something.
Yep, so the health insurance would be saving $51,581.
Okay.
If you add back the HSA contribution, if you go to the 1250, 2500, add back 44,463.
44,000? I
Yes.
thought there was a 20,000 number you can't add. So.
No, yeah, so then you add back, so you subtract 51, add back 44, so if you're just going off those rough thousands, what is that, is it about 7?
7, yeah.
7, and then you subtract the 12 and change from the dental to get to the total savings of $19,970.
And what was the dental savings again?
The dental savings was $12,852.
These are the same numbers as last meeting?
Yes. Well, so the HSA savings is a little bit different. After reviewing initially it was on the sheet that we talked about, but we were kind of more honing in on the 1,000, 2,000 instead of the 1,250 and 2,500. After kind of reviewing the benchmarks and what savings could be coming down to it, I guess at this point I'm formally recommending the 1,250, 2,500.
I'm not sure if you continued your thought there. Is this different than what we talked about last time?
That would be the only
Then
thing.
the numbers were shared. Initially, as I was thinking through this, the discussion point last week was kind of looking at more the 1,000 for singles, 2,000 for family. As I've compared benchmarks and thought about it over these last 2 weeks, my recommendation tonight was still on the sheet last night, but it is to go with the 1,250, 2,500 for the HSA.
Okay. That wasn't clear to me as you went through that.
Okay.
So, okay, yeah, the number seems smaller than last time. So this get us down to 10%
So yes,
increase in levy?
so this would get us down to 10.8% roughly. Which is about, the difference between the two HSA plans is about $15,000. And I basically made myself the commitment that I could find $15,000 somewhere to make those the same. Going into 2025.
So how much is the additional subtraction for the the HSA from what we talked about last time?
About
How much difference does the 1250 and two, or whatever?
about $15,000.
I guess I'm surprised that that we're talking about it different since we've talked about it last time.
And I guess I didn't really get a feeling of where anybody was landing last time. And so,
I said I agreed with it, but
But we didn't have the benchmarks last time either, did we?
Well, yeah, we had that, the only thing that we were waiting on last time was
Okay.
the clinics, like who would accept.
Thank you, yeah. Obviously, I was absent.
Nope, I,
yeah,
yep,
no,
I
and
understand.
and yes, I guess how I've been looking at this has changed from last meeting. I'll certainly, it basically was me sitting on it for 2 weeks more and digesting it. That got me to recommending the peach option, I think, or salmon option as we described it last time.
Okay, so what are, with this new information tonight, what are we're approving this? Or is it still gonna be in the budget?
I would be looking for some sort of, hopefully, approval so that we could communicate this information back to the insurance company and continue down the insurance path.
I guess I'm fine with the insurance part and communicating that with them. At what point, though, do the employees have to help assist in a 15% increase?
So with this change
I
in
know in
plan,
the private sector,
with
the
this change in
employees help.
plan, there's only gonna be a 4.7% increase. That 15% increase
Right.
would go away if we change plans. It would move to a 4.7% increase. And that would be, even moving to the 1250, 2500 option, the employee is still having to pick up more out of pocket. Like,
Right,
so-
I know,
so-
and
so
it, I know, and
there
it
is-
sucks.
Yep.
I agree.
Nope, and so even with an HSA contribution, the employee is still having to potentially shoulder more out of pocket. To answer your question of where does the employee have to pick up, that is an area where the employee would potentially have to pick up more than if we just said, nope, we'll stick with the same plan and increase HSA contribution.
Right, well, that's just it. The city's pumping into the HSA that they can use to help offset that.
Correct, but but if you figure, let's just take a single person.
Right?
Right now, if the out-of-pocket, or let's call it the deductibles, because it's the same thing. Deductible of $2,250 with an HSA contribution of $500 by the city. That means that a single person would have to come up with $1,750
Right.
if they hit that max. Now, if let's say we change plans to the Smart Option 3, so it is $3,300 is what the deductible now is. Even if the city increases the contribution that it pays into the HSA to $1,250, the employee now, instead of having to come up with $1,750, is having to come up with $2,050. So the employee is still having to basically eat $300 that they didn't have to eat in 2024. So that there is, the employees, even with the contribution max that I've showed here, are still having to take a piece out of that pie.
Okay, so we're essentially saving in the general fund 51,000, but then we're increasing our spending into the HSA 44,463. Is that correct? So really, the difference is $7,000.
With yes, but then add in the dental savings is where we get to the total savings.
I want to separate them a little
So,
bit.
okay,
so, yeah.
let's say, yes, so we are saving the general fund $7,000 while still, the employees are still seeing an increase to what they have to pay out of their pocket, but they're not seeing quite as large of an increase. And so the city is saving and the employees are not having to take as large of a hit. That is where my recommendation is coming from.
Right.
It
And
is trying to take a bad situation, which you admit, nobody likes to see rising costs for anybody, but it is trying to help the employees out. Admittedly, myself, less affected by a higher deductible, but there are other employees who that is a much larger step for them.
right. No, I understand that too. I guess what I'm wanting to know is when it comes down to finalizing the budget, and I'm not saying this is where we're gonna find it, but if we need to adjust this somehow, are we approving this tonight, so this is gonna lock in? Or is this just what, the new update with it, that we would still, I know you have to get the insurance.
I think we'd certainly be, I'd like to, obviously the HSA can move at any time. That's what this city can do. I would warn against taking too long because there are certainly employees who have options of looking at their their spouse's health plans. And if the city kind of leans one way and then moves directions later, maybe an HSA contribution or a amount percentage of contribution to a premium. You have employees who said, well, it would have been nice to know that we were gonna do that back in September. I would have jumped over to my spouse's plan. It makes more sense now this way or that way.
Right.
And so, I mean, my hope is with the insurances to kind of get this stuff figured out so that employees can make the best options for themselves on where that they need to go for 2025.
Because open enrollment is early October,
So open enrollment, I believe, is planned
for
for
here's no-
late October.
later, okay, for here.
And when is our next budget meeting? Have we said
So the
that?
next formal budget meeting would be October, whatever that first meeting in October is. Was it second, third?
So we would still have time if we need to somehow make changes to this.
I guess I would, like I said, I recommend if we can come up with a decision tonight, I think that is best for our employees and helping them figure out their own health futures for 2025.
Do we have the insurance numbers? We have what, 52 employees? How many employees do we have?
52, 53. something
Okay,
like that.
and how many are using insurance, both single and family?
Do you know that number off the top of your head, Robin?
About 49 to 50.
Okay,
Most of them.
right, because it's a
Yeah.
good deal compared to the private sector and their spouses and whatever else. So I get that. It's not easy choices to do this, but in the real world, in the private sector, these are choices that people have to make, and we have to wait sometimes, and the owner of the company doesn't, he's trying to figure out how.
I mean,
it's gonna
just because that happens, if an owner or company does that, that doesn't mean we have to do that to our
No,
employees.
no, I get it. But I'm just saying, the insurance is so good that 49 out of the 52 employees are using city insurance.
Well, and that's a wonderful thing to keep employees with us.
No, absolutely. And
I don't feel that what we've been presented is out of line or unrealistic by any means. And in the long run, we are saving money, and Josh said that he is committed to finding a $15,000 reduction in some other area of the budget to offset.
Right, I'm still worried about the 11.24% that we're sitting at, or the 10.8%. So,
Understandably.
and I'm just saying that we have always been very, very good to our employees and have taken care of our employees
And we should.
automatically, as we should. But I'm still saying eventually there becomes a time where the taxpayer just can't keep funding everything else because they're working in the private sector and their insurance is going up, and they're expected to pick up a portion of it.
And again, Sean, we are expecting, like
I
said,
know,
out
just
of
this,
pocket
for this first year, yes, I know, this is the same debate that we have often in budget citing. What I'm getting at, though, is I don't wanna lock into something that now, when we're looking to, when we put the whole budget together, now we've taken a major chunk out of it with the benefit part of it, and there's no way to move because you guys have already locked in with your insurance company and whatever else. So that's why I was asking the question. Is this something that we definitely need to lock in today, or can we keep this on the table as we move forward in our budget discussions to really look at this and every other section?
Arguably, the insurance portions would need to be locked in today. HSA contribution, like I said, is not locked in until the end of the year. That being said, I would still highly recommend not changing that on employees because I think you'll have employees who are more upset if it changes than anything, just because they basically removes their ability to go look at their spouse's plans.
That's what I'm asking. Did they though? Because I know plenty of people that
They might.
change it. They theoretically might, yes, but I'm just saying that there's, again, I find that really hard to believe if 49 out of 52 people are taking city as opposed to their significant others.
If we raise deductibles that may make it more competitive with the spouse's plan.
Right.
Um,
Potentially even saving more money if they jump to the spouse's plan, and then
potentially,
then the other
but it
company
also
pays.
could, like, however you'd like to vote it, Sean, we'll just leave it at that. We are clearly on
Well,
two ends
don't get
of the
frustrated,
spectrum.
Josh. These are
I'm
legitimate
just-
questions that I have
I
to
understand that, Sean.
answer the taxpayers.
But you,
I mean, we're gonna have to make a decision the next meeting anyway. Because we have to, or by the next meeting, because we have to tell them, because the plan starts October 15th, right? Or,
Open enrollment.
that was the absolute deadline to get them stuff back.
Yeah.
We'd like to have, October 7th, okay.
yeah, so
But,
that,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if we'd like to
so,
give employees as much time as possible.
well, I'll make, go ahead.
Well, as my viewpoint was the last meeting, my viewpoint is to do this sooner than later. I'd prefer that we come to some understanding today. It's just that timeliness is, I think, important dealing with the employees, but I'm a little taken aback by the changing in your thinking about the, what we had talked about last meeting, but, because I had thought that all we were talking about is who's in network and who's out. But when you say that you're gonna or support this with $15,000 worth of cut somewhere else, this HSA contribution is probably something that has a lot of permanency to it. So are you suggesting you can find a $15,000 deduction in expenses or increase in income that's permanent? Or have that same kind of lasting availability to us without changing services as you just got done mentioning? Or, I mean, because
No,
I mean, this is kind of a whirlwind thing. It's not a lot of money, but it's still very important because it's got so much stickiness to it. And we don't like to flip-flop around with the benefits and things like that, but I guess it's a small material, not number, but I'm still concerned about getting at the 10%, not 10.8 or something like that type of thing. So, and I don't want to see us make a $15,000 adjustment just came out of savings or something just to solve this issue. If we're really talking about apples to apples, it's got to have something permanent. And I didn't see any apples that we could just grab off the tree to save us $15,000, but maybe I'm just not aware of it. But I guess the explanation I'm hearing is that you just had a lot of reflection over the last 2 weeks and felt that this was a better number.
Yes.
But I guess I would rather offer a compromise of the difference in between and try to get something approved tonight. But that's my position on it. So instead of 1,000 versus 1,200, split the difference on both of those.
Well, I'm just going through, you do have neighboring communities here, and not that I'm concerned, because the elected officials in Prior Lake or Jordan or Belle Plaine can answer to their residents. That's their deal. That doesn't mean we necessarily have to do that. But our deductible going to 6,600, Jordan's family deductible's at 9,000. And I'm not proposing that by any means. I'm just saying there are cities that have made tough choices too. And I'm sure they care about their employees just as much.
Yes, Sean, and I guess my belief is sometimes that tough choice is to say, you know what, maybe we do have to have a little bit higher increase. Like, the tough choice doesn't always have to hit city services and or employees. Sometimes that tough choice may need to go the other direction.
Yeah, and for the 14 years that I've sat on here, it's almost been that. So it has gone the other way. And we've just,
And yet somehow, I mean, for 14 years, that levy increase has been kept very, very low up until the last couple of years.
yes, I know, and I'm concerned that the trend is starting to go the opposite way. We do have a lot of new growth coming into this community in the next year or two, which should also help bring in more taxes, but
Okay,
well, if we
what
have
would,
to lock into this, I don't think we necessarily have to do it tonight, but if you guys have concerns.
I'm gonna make a motion that the city council go ahead with the recommendation of the city administrator as presented in um, memorandum. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
I'll be voting opposed because I was just trying to offer a compromise in between. And it's hard to judge when the deductible, HSA and everything's separated. It would be nice to have a better, and these are great numbers. I appreciate all the work, so I'm not diminishing any of that. But to just look at the real life situation, circumstance of an individual person, what's the difference between Jordan, New Prague, blah, 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 blah. Similar to you get with your insurance package you get when you get the insurance, what, you know, gives you an example of a diabetic and da-da-da-da-da.
So
Illustration.
are you talking about the actual benefits of,
Yeah, and then you can subtract, well, how much does HSA help comparatively between plans? And kind of see what does this person pay in this circumstance? But anyway,
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Otherwise, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
aye,
Okay. Motion failed. So do you wanna offer a compromise there on the HSA?
we need to try to do the numbers,
Okay.
which is very little. I'm not sure. So, if you wouldn't mind correcting me if I'm wrong, it's 1,125, and what's family?
2,500. Be 2,250, if you're splitting the 2,000 and the 2,500.
I'd make a motion to approve the recommendations except for the HSA contribution change from single to 1125 and family 2250.
Okay, there's been a motion.
I'll second.
There's a second by Maggie.
Wait, let me just, I want some explanation
Yep.
here a little bit, because this is all coming real quick here. So, again, I wanted to kind of see it in the bigger context of the entire budget, at a budget meeting, not here in the middle of a council meeting where we're throwing different numbers out. So Bruce, just walk me through it again a little quick, your proposal.
This is a very nominal change from what this presentation was. It's just changing. Last meeting, my understanding was we had the individual HSA contribution at $1,000, increasing it from 500, so doubling the contribution, if I'm correct.
That's correct, yes.
So, and Josh recommended tonight to increase that to 1,250. So I'm suggesting that we just raise it to 1,125. So it's a nominal difference. I would,
Oh, that's your compromise between your, the last week.
I supported what we discussed last meeting, the $1,000, which doubled it. But
So the single would be 1125, right?
I get it now.
And then family 2,500? Is that
No.
what you?
2,250.
2250.
250, I'm sorry, thank you.
And then this essentially locks us in from further negotiating or looking at it in a bigger context.
Well, the HSA, I think, is still on the table.
Okay.
no, it wouldn't be if we approve this.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
I guess if you want to,
I understand.
I thought that was always gonna be part of the,
I think when it was presented last meeting, the idea of basically giving back most of the savings was part of that when we talked about $1,000 HSA.
So the
It's
savings,
just that,
the savings will be bigger now. Instead of being 7,000, it'll be a little bit bigger.
yeah, and I'm looking at the bigger picture too and trying to keep it at the 10% and how we're doing that and whatever we can do to help with that, but
Okay,
that's
So-
just where I stand. But
okay, I think.
it's not a material difference.
No, I understand where you're splitting the difference there. And again, I didn't, the plan isn't to just penalize workers, it's just to get them to a standard
I
level.
don't view any of this as penalizing
Right.
anybody.
Right, but I'm not sure that others don't, in a sense that, they're now I'm gonna have $300 extra out of, you know, that we are contributing a little bit more. I guess what I'm saying is, you know what, I follow your compromise, and I think, I'll be happy to support that, just so the city employees can get an opportunity to be with their significant others and see what might be a better plan. I think our due diligence should be, at the beginning of the year, is take a look at how many people actually switched the plan and didn't. Because I'm gonna guess it's still gonna be 59 or 49 out of 52, because it is such a good plan compared to the 2/3 of people that don't work in the public sector.
And I tend not to think about just the plan itself, because we're looking at a total compensation package that we're hopefully having a goal of being competitive, and maybe even oftentimes better, and quite often, a lot of the times better than the private market when you look at a total compensation package. And that's partially because the state law requires us to do things as a municipality, and we are, in my previous experience, city governments are very competitive with their total package, with compensation and benefits.
I agree.
Maybe the benefits aren't that great. They don't get bonuses though, and they don't get other things. But that's just my perspective on things. So I look at it, we want to be in the ball field with being competitive. And our turnover certainly in some areas is high, but it's not because of compensation typically. At least that's what I understand. So that's telling me that we're in the ballpark. You know, I mean, we have police issue, which is a whole different story, but generally speaking, we don't have a lot of turnover. I think.
I would hate to disagree with you, but I will. I've hired more than 10 people since I became Public Works Director. And I have an extremely hard time getting applications. I'm just being honest with you, so you guys are open and understanding that it's not just police. It's street position, wastewater. I can't even get applications. So, no, it is a big issue to hiring people. It's not like when I first started here, we were getting 160 applications for one public works employee position. It's not like that. I hate to say it, but the private sector has caught up to everybody else. Actually, they blew by us. I get people that come in here that just wanted it. Oh, give me step one. I'm just happy to be here. If I can't get max pay right away, then I'm not interested, because what they're making in the private sector, which is great. I'm happy for them, but I just wanted to put that out there. It's not easy to get employees anymore. It's extremely difficult to get somebody in here. So that's all I wanted to say. Sorry, I didn't.
No, I appreciate
No,
that, and it's
but-
very good to know. I think we try to be we try to bring people on it in the step that's gonna get them in the door, I think.
100%.
So we try to do that,
Yep.
so we don't start people on step one very often.
No, we do not,
Yeah.
but there are times that I can't even make an offer to somebody because what they're making and they need to have a certain pay, and I can't offer them that.
Right.
I mean, they come in here, they see the step scale and they think I can exceed the step scale, and I can't, which that's just how it is. So
Right.
I do miss out on a lot of good employees because of it, or good opportunity to bring somebody in. But again, then I'll have a wastewater position that was open for 3 months without one application. And then the couple applications I got they didn't meet our standards to come in even. So it's not like we're getting high quality applicants anymore. It's just the reality it is right now. So.
Okay.
Do you think $125 for HSA contribution make a difference in hiring?
That's not why I wanted to voice my opinion. I've heard people say how, I mean, somebody leaves, we just hire the next person, shake their hand and say goodbye. It's not like that. It's
No,
extremely
I don't
difficult.
mean that, but I do believe that municipality compensation is competitive, generally speaking. Some of the things you're describing is universal in private sector, or whatever, the hard time finding employees or qualified employees. It's not just the city of New Prague that has
No,
that difficulty.
Totally agree with you. It's just tough when
Right.
there's job postings out there, local surrounding communities that are paying $5 more an hour than I can start off some of my employees.
Right.
And the one thing I will say is usually I can offer them a little bit better insurance. That's all. That's just you can see it on the what Josh put on here. With this increase, yeah, we are going to be that will be, I lose that selling point that, hey, yes, we have great insurance at 4,500 and 2,250 single. Now, with this increase, I lose that. I'm just being honest with you. I'm hoping I can still work my magic and find employees, but it's been very hard, obviously, for, Tim's been short of a cop for 2 years or whatever, I don't know, but a long time. Yeah, but.
I don't have an answer and I don't have full knowledge of everything. I just do have some knowledge of some insurance that I see that I've had, other people have had, and I know the pricing. And it does seem to be competitive with the stuff that I just had in the private market and what other people I know, or the school district is an example. It's in the ballpark. So I don't see it's, maybe it's not the greatest insurance, but it's not bad.
Ours? Oh,
Yeah.
no, I'm not saying that this is bad. I'm just giving you the outlook.
Right.
I really just wanted to speak up about how hard it is to find employees.
Yep.
It's not as easy as it used to be. And yes, I'm not here to steal Josh's spot, sorry.
So we got a motion on the table, and I'm gonna call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye, I'd like to take a look at it.
Okay. Carries.
Thanks for your
Okay.
comments, Matt.
Thank you. All right, the next item is the tax abatement for 54-unit market rate apartment and call for a hearing. So you gonna take that?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll provide a general overview. We do have Michaela Hewitt from Baker Tilly online as well to provide any other backing information, should you have any questions that I can't answer, or Josh for that matter. But yes, we are here in front of you tonight, looking for you to call a hearing. This would be taking place at the September 21st City Council meeting. Josh and I were at the school board meeting at their workshop last Monday. And they called for a hearing to occur next Monday night at their meeting on the 23rd, I believe. And then we will be at Le County to see if they can call a hearing for their board meeting in, I forget the date on that, but it'll be in October. But in a nutshell, what we're looking at for the Ebert 54-unit apartment building, as you've been hearing about since back in April, when the council voted to submit an application for the Workforce Housing Development Program from the MHFA. We had committed at that point to a local match of $249,999. And we are still hoping, and we have not heard yet if we will receive the funding in the amount of $499,999,000. We will hear definitively on that by the 26th of September, which will be next week. So we're hoping that we get that money brought in, but if you look in the packet that Michaela put together, and Michaela, maybe I'll have you provide a quick overview on that, but there's 4 different scenarios in the packet on level of possible tax abatement. The developer is noting a $1.2 million financial gap in the project to make this happen. And they're saying that without that $1.2 million to make this happen, that there will be no project. We are proposing to bring in the county and the school to share that load. And we've kind of narrowed in on scenario number 4 on the handout. And I don't know, Michaela, if you got anything you want to jump in on, let me know. But in a nutshell, scenario number 4 is kind of the worst case scenario. If we do not get the MHFA program funding brought in, that is basically the amount of, we'll just say 100% of city, school, and county tax abatement that would be needed for a roughly 15-year time period. If the $499,999 MHFA funding is brought in, that would bring us down between 50 to 75%. I think it would be probably in that 70% range that each entity would have to contribute to kind of, again, spread the tax payment for that 15-year time period. So that kind of, in a nutshell, what we're looking at. I think the general support from the school board was that they're in for their up to 100% level if need be. And Michaela can address this probably further, but you typically have a agreement between all the taxing entities, and, 60%, sorry, if we all, if we get the MHFA money, brought in. But the agreement typically would spell out, and Michaela, again, feel free to jump in, but, the agreement we have with each taxing entity, we would draft it, considering that there would not be MHFA funding brought in, and if it is, it could be adjusted to the lower rate, which is, Josh just pointed out to me, is closer to 60%, for each of the taxing entities that would have to provide the abatement for that 15-year time period. So hopefully that's a decent overview. Michaela, do you have anything you'd like to add to that, or Josh, for that matter?
Michaela?
Sure. Thank you, Ken. That was a great kind of summary overview, and maybe I'll just add, I think as from what was initially discussed, that amount has increased based on the developer further reviewing their financials and their pro forma, which is why we wanted to share the higher percentage amounts, in part if they don't receive that full grant request or amount that they've requested, and better aligning with what their gap is. Maybe the other thing I'll add is these projections are, again, based on a taxable value of the project upon completion of about 6.1 million. The maximum amounts by entity would be included within a tax abatement agreement with maximum number of years or dollar amount, whichever would occur first. And there's no inflationary growth that has been factored into the abatement revenues over 15 years. So if values come in higher, there's annual inflation that could result in a reduction in the number of years of that pledged abatement. So again, what's being presented tonight is simply to call for the public hearing to consider participating in tax abatement with the expectation that it could be up to 100% of the city's share over 15 years. And by the time we have the public hearing on the granting of the tax abatement, we should, based on MHFA's timing for awarding the funding, we should know. And so the actual terms of the abatement would be should be solidified at that public hearing meeting.
Okay. Any questions?
Michaela, I have a question. You mentioned that you can reduce the number of years. Is that a discretionary? Can we keep the dollar amount the same and for 15 years, thereby bringing in more revenue to the city?
So Mayor, members of the council, if the question is, so right now, if we're looking at scenario 4, the estimated annual city share of taxes is about 31,856. So over 15 years, that would be 477,837. What I was referencing is if the maximum pledge of the city share is 50.
Hello?
Go up and you hit 477,000 in say year 11 or year 10, then the pledge of tax abatement would be done, and then that increased value would go on the city's tax rolls. So I'm not sure if that's the question you were asking of, as opposed to if we reduce, right now we're assuming 100% over 15 years. In the scenario I just mentioned, values go up, you're still pledging 100%, but you would hit that total of the 477,000 in a term less than 15 years.
Michaela,
Yeah.
I think the question is if instead of tracking at the 100%, if the city would have the ability to track at the 31,856 per year,
Gotcha.
thereby capturing any growth and keeping it for itself.
Yeah, that's and that's what I wanted to clarify. Good clarification that if you can, the abatement is very flexible. And I would say these terms have not been discussed with the developer, but you could do another option where if it's 100% for maybe 5 years, and then you stagger it down to a lesser percent. And again, this is the worst case scenario, no grant funding received, but we could also structure it that they get, no more than the 31,856, and if values are higher, that difference would not be levied and would not be provided to them, but go on the general tax rolls. So there's several different options of how the maximum amount would be could be structured. And I think what maybe would be helpful is if there's direction, on trying to minimize the number of years, reduce the percentage, limit the annual amount. That will help in structuring the terms of the abatement agreement.
When did they start paying this, Michaela? The minute, I mean,
Yeah, yep.
this next coming year, or when the project's completed?
That's a good question. So right now, what we've assumed is we're in late 2024. They could begin construction as early as fall of this year, and work and complete the project, by December 31st of 2025. So what we're assuming for the first year of the tax abatement is, the value would be online as of December 31st, 2025. For assessment year January 2nd, 2026, and taxes payable 2027. So the first year that we're showing that the increased value would be online and paying taxes would be for taxes payable year 2027. And then the abatement would be included in the fall of 2026 levy, to reflect that pay 27 year.
Okay. And if it doesn't start, till next year, it just gets pushed back a year.
Correct.
Yeah, it would, I think we would want, if the project materially changes in timing and we're looking at a full 15 years, then you're right that, we could be looking at pay 28 as the taxes payable 28 as the first year. But if we think they're going to be close to completion by the end of next year, by the end of 2025, and a little carryover into 2026, it might be a partial first year and then 14 full years after, which is more how tax increment typically works.
Okay. Thank you.
I would just like to, obviously, public hearing is not tonight, and so a formal decision on this is not tonight. It is just calling for the public hearing. Just a general reminder with tax abatement, we would not pay out more than we took in. And so that there's not the possibility where, well, we only collect 15,000 from them, but we pay out 31. So if for some reason the value of the project goes down, we would only pay out. So with tax abatement, they pay us and we cut them a check back. We are never gonna cut them a check back for more than they cut us a check in the beginning of the year, type of situation.
Up to 31,000.
Yeah, if that's where we set the number, yes.
Or,
Yeah.
Yeah,
whatever,
so it's not one of those situations where it is directly costing the city money. Obviously, we do have to provide services to them, for being as part of the city, and there is a cost to that. But it is not a direct cost to the city in that other people's taxes are necessarily supporting the abatement, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It does, thank you.
And Josh, if I could add to that, each year, the fall of each year, like conversations you're having now on setting your levy, the levy of the abatement for the following year will be calculated based on the actual valuation and tax rates. So by doing that each year, you are able to manage those payments and make sure they are based on what the actual value and tax abatement revenues are going to be generated. So it's not a set schedule.
So we still could be collecting more taxes than,
It's entirely possible that if we pay out at 31,856 a year, as Michaela discussed, and let's say the value goes up 3% a year, that either we pay that 3% a year back to finish the abatement sooner than is originally scheduled, or we capture that 3% per year and add it to our own levy. It sounds like from Michaela, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we would have that option of how we'd want to set that up.
That's correct. Yep.
So it's possible we could collect more than we pay out, even if
Yes.
we agree to the initial 100% abatement.
okay. So are there any other questions? Otherwise, I'd look for a motion to call for a hearing on this.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. And the hearing will be October 21st, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Did you copy, I need a copy of this, the whole packet,
The
yep.
whole packet? Make it happen.
You still got it?
Got Sean's packet right here.
No, I'm not working, I got it.
Okay, the next item up, thank you, Michaela.
Thank you.
The next item up is a Charter Commission recommendation.
Yes, at the annual Charter Commission, the Charter Commission, after some discussion, voted unanimously to present a change to the city charter for the mayor of New Prague to serve a 4-year term instead of a 2-year term. Kind of throughout this process, or I guess kind of getting to a little quick background on it, this was a change that Scott Riggs and I have been kind of discussing for a couple years. Ultimately, when we kind of looked at the data this year, if we look at Scott, Rice, and LeSueur counties, which we are all either part of or so close to you could throw a rock and get to it, it's almost kind of split that when you hit that 5 to 10,000 population mark, cities kind of seem to be switching over. I believe if you look at, I know if you look at Scott County, I know that I believe Belle Plaine may be the only one who has a 2-year mayor term. If you look at LeSueur County, LeSueur is the only one that has a 4-year term. And if you look over at Rice County, it's pretty well split where the larger 3 cities have 4-year terms, the smaller 3 cities have 2-year terms. And so some of the discussion and reasons for recommendation is generally a 4-year mayor brings a little bit more stability to the council, especially if you have a brand new mayor on the council. It's 100% possible. It takes a year or so for that mayor to get their legs underneath them. And then a short 6 months later, they're already basically having to re-campaign for their position again. So I guess through this, as I said, the Charter Commission had some discussions. I think one of the largest concerns that kind of came out of the Charter Commission during the discussion was the fact that, well, what happens if we get a radical mayor in there who goes out just off the handle trying to change things? In our current setup, and especially in terms of voting, the mayor is no different than if we got a radical city council member. The other 4 city council members would still have 4 votes over the one of the mayor. And so after our discussion, the Charter Commission did vote unanimously by those present to recommend this change to the city council. The reason why this change is being recommended to the city council is there's kind of 2 paths that goes into changing the city charter. One is the Charter Commission can send a question to the ballot and have the people vote on it. To go this route, there is a process, and I don't believe we would have met the timing this year anyway, quite frankly, to get it on the 24 ballot. The other path is that it can send it to the city council. So the city council, though, for the charter to change, has to hold a public hearing, which is what this next step that I'm recommending we hold a public hearing for tonight. Then must then go through some various posting and advertising of the potential change, and then the vote. And the vote would have to be unanimous, 5-0, by the whole city council for that vote to take effect. If for some reason the city council decides not to either not send this to a public hearing and kind of kill it here, or if the vote's 4-1 or any vote that's not 5-0 through the process, the question then goes back to the Charter Commission, and the Charter Commission at that time has the ability either to kill it themselves or the ability to say, we're going to hold a special election for this to be voted on. So City Attorney Scott Riggs recommended that we go the city council route first because it is a slightly faster, and we'll say, he said it's the easier process to go through things instead of having to potentially call a special election and go that whole route. But as I said, that would be up to the city council at this point as to whether it wants to continue down this route or send it back to the Charter Commission to potentially send to the voters. My personal recommendation would be to continue down this route and to call for a public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we call for a public hearing.
Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
Okay, there's been a motion by Sean, seconded by Maggie. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. And that'll be October 21st also.
Correct.
Okay.
Josh, what was the date in August of that meeting?
I can look it up for you real fast here.
You're on it, aren't you, Dwayne? Do you
No,
remember?
I got off of it.
And I wasn't on the distribution, so I
Yeah,
didn't
Yeah,
get the
I don't-
Yes,
information.
and yeah, again, I have
Yeah, there was
August
a
14.
flu.
August 14th, because I don't recall getting it either, but that's why I asked what the date was, because I'm on the
Yeah,
commission as well.
that's,
So am I.
Okay,
so.
well, it'd be good to hear it, get some public feedback maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next items are, well, just, the North Memorial, we met with North Memorial Ambulance, and the second quarter stuff is in the packet. They've kind of re-evaluated how they record their calls, for this area, so, and how they budget also, so it's kind of showing that there's a positive, not really a,
Under their old way of doing it, I think they would record the call as to where whatever bus responded to it, I think of how it was. And so if somebody not from New Prague responded to a New Prague call, it'd get recorded here. Whereas I believe they're switching it now as to where they're recording where the call actually comes out of. And so if did I say that correctly?
no,
Blaine?
you said it backwards.
I said it backwards.
Yep, so if the call comes out of here and we respond, it gets counted as a response to the New Prague crew, even if they go someplace else to pick up a patient and so on and so forth, versus what they were doing is just recording. They would record, everything would be recorded for New Prague if it was New Prague. But prior to this, they would record, let's say if a Faribault truck came over here, they would count that for Faribault, and it wasn't a true number of the actual transports out of the city or our service area. So now they kind of, tighten that up, and we should have a better reporting, and the numbers have dropped also because of that reporting, tightening. So, and then the next item, anything, Rick, do you have anything that you wanna bring up?
No, I don't.
Bruce? Okay, I don't have anything. Sean?
No, not that I can think of.
Maggie?
No.
Okay, Josh? Ken?
Nope.
Robin?
Early voting starts on Friday, so we'll be having Scott County early voting here in the conference room on the main level. Otherwise, that's it.
Just for Scott County residents?
Correct.
Robin, how does that work? Do people have to get get it mailed to them and then come here, or do they get everything done here?
They get everything done here
At least for county residents, where do they go?
to the courthouse.
Center.
So it used to be, basically what happened was Scott County kind of disseminated it to the cities, so that if you live in one of the cities now, you go to your city to do early voting instead of going up to the county. I think it's been mixed results, quite frankly. I know it basically has meant that we as the city have to have staff members trained and or paid, as well as find space. We don't have a conference room for 45 days leading up to an election, to make sure this early voting can happen. And I know, I'm guessing for smaller cities, it's been more of a struggle to ensure coverage, as well as to not have to bring in extra judges to ensure election coverage than it probably has for the larger cities.
Is this described on our website?
I don't think I have a publication on the website yet. We're sending stuff out in the newsletter that'll go out with the utility bill and it'll be emailed to folks that receive the newsletter. But to not be confusing for the newsletter, we are just referencing to find your polling place for Scott County or Leesburg County. We're just providing the links to both counties. Because not every Scott County resident can come here. They have to live within city limits of New Prague, so. But we'll put something on the website we have in the past, so.
Because we do provide utilities outside the city limits, don't we? into
Yes,
the
we provide
township.
utilities, but that doesn't,
Yeah, I
put
mean,
their
I
polling
did,
place
yeah.
here, like for Cedar Lake, yeah,
Yep.
for utilities.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Tim?
I don't have anything.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, with that, I take a motion to adjourn, and then we'll have a special closed session meeting after this.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. There's been a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Yeah, it'd be nice if Leesburg County would, I mean, you know, you would be able to do it here. You know what I mean?
And more people
Thank
asking
you.
about it, I couldn't answer.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
They're sending the Scott County website.